ended up at 300K without any funding, and we're going like completely bankrupt. Our CTO left and it was only me and a couple of engineers. And I know if everything vanishes tomorrow, go and do the exact same thing over and over again.
This is Sebastian Hjärne, founder and CEO of Talentium, a talent sourcing search engine backed by EQT Ventures, the founders of Klarna, Sana Labs and Void Technology. He's exited his first venture at the age of only 19.
So the problem is the recruitment process has been broken for way too long, because when you're starting to hiring people, you're not only hiring a person, you're hiring all the things around it as well. I see a lot of friends of mine have good graduations. They have a hard time getting a job.
It's not often you meet someone at just 22 who has already exited a company, invested in multiple ventures, and is now building again. So I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation, dear Sebastian. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
So, Sebastian, let's start a bit personal. When you reflect on your childhood, are there any specific experiences that still shape your path and how you approach things, how you especially approach challenges and problems in your life, which you do as a founder?
I think, of course, I can start to talk a little bit about my childhood. It was a long time since I did that. So yeah, it's cool. I think from my absolute beginning and me as a child, I had a lot of energy, right? I couldn't sit still and I wanted to do so much stuff. I was running around like crazy. And I think even later on, when I started school, I always been this child where I have so much energy in every single aspect and I want to do stuff. I always want to do and solve problem. And I think I have met a lot of people, tried a lot of stuff during the years. So I think that is kind of where I started from the beginning.
And were there any really inspirational persons in your life? For example, for me, it was my grandma. She was the only entrepreneur in our family, and she really inspired me for entrepreneurship and the path I wanted to go later. Who was that for you?
For me, it was my mother. So my mother is coming from a very small city outside of Värmland. It's called Hagfors. It's a very, very small city inside of Sweden. And she grew up there, moved to like Stockholm, a bigger city when she was young, and really like worked her way up. So I saw it from like the first row. Of course, she'd been like a lot in phone and everything like that. But suddenly became CEO of, everything from finance companies to huge, companies that building house and owning like real estates and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool to now actually be CEO of a company that's merge and acquisition and buys a lot of different companies in the industry of transportation and stuff like that. So I think she has been a super cool like role model for me, kind of, which I have looked up to. And also, of course, my stepfather has been a big inspiration for me from another perspective, because he is, been taking care of the family in a completely different way. And I have seen a lot of, even when everything is suddenly going up and down, and always been this kind of stable person in my life, at least.
So you talked a bit about your family background. It sounds elite, I would say, in some ways. And these families often push for like education, which you've decided against after your school. I was a founder myself in high school, and after that, I really didn't want to go all in and started my university. That's why we failed. And I can imagine even for those who go all in and are really, really successful as yourself, they fail a lot. So what were the challenges there?
I think, I've had a lot of challenges during the years. And of course, you need to have the right kind of mindset in how you treat those challenges. Because of course, every single person have challenges, either it's personal or it's like with work or life in general. But of course, you need to see them as maybe not challenges in that way. Maybe a challenge is actually the right way. It's what you want to see it, but it's not like a problem. I think a lot of people, they feel like, oh, this is so much, I can't do this, And if you have that motivation and like that kind of mindset, of course, it will become a problem.
Yeah.
more than it becomes like something fun and that you want to solve something. For me, it's always been, my life day to day is to solve problems. And actually, to start off, like, my background is not coming from maybe elite, but a real hard like working family. Everyone is like really coming from scratch. So I have seen it like firsthand, working a lot, saw that kind of perspective of everything. And I think from what I really felt and what I is that I want to create something, I have this energy. So when I started my first venture from the absolute beginning, a lot of people said like, you don't have any education. Like, how should you be able to accomplish something when you are getting out? And I got so much pushback. Even my parents said it from the beginning. Who is going to pay the rent? What are you going to do? Everything. And, you don't have an education. So, you get a lot of pushbacks. And I think from
Yeah.
that beginning, you need to have a leap in faith in what you're doing and who you are, and then just let it be, like, go out there and try. And I think that is the best thing that you can do. I have been like in so many different situations, from everything from starting, having a investor from the absolute beginning, where we basically I brought in like wrong people on the cap table, and increased the bar of having a lot of salaries to pay, and cloud compute costs, and basically everything. And when you have a lot of things to pay because you have put up the burn a lot, and from there basically the investor leaves you and you have zero money, and you are like 4 weeks for going like completely bankrupt. So then it's more like, what is your kind of like, who are you? What is your mindset? Either you can say, okay, I go to sleep now and I put it down and go away, or you can kind of put up your sleeves and start to work and go out there, network, and do what's necessary in order to make it work. So that is the mentality that I have had. And something that's pushed me is, I always know, whatever I do, if I go out for a run, if I go out with my friends or whatever, I always have in my mind what I'm creating and the vision that I'm doing. And I think for me, that is the absolute most important thing that you can do.
And yeah, so failure is really something which will follow you on your path as a founder. What was your hardest failure, you will say?
I think my hardest failure, from like the absolute beginning, is like, I think when I started, we had a very, very good product in general from my absolute first company, and I think we let it go a little bit too early. I think what I could have done is like still stuck there. Of course, I have a little bit different kind of thing, because had two companies before, and I did like the exit of one of them, and the other one is still running. So, but I can more talk about like also personal failures, because some parts of me are really want to go out there and try my best and do everything, and some parts of me also want to rest. And I think sometimes my body wants rest and my brain wants to go. So sometimes I also feel like I need to I fail on myself in order to like
Yeah,
sleep and do all this stuff, because that is also a very important aspect. I think people just see the bright side of everything,
exactly.
and when it's when things are rolling, but usually everything else is not rolling. You have your mental thing that you need to do, you have everyone else mental health that you need to take care of, because when you're starting to hiring people, you're not only hiring a person, you're hiring all the things around it as well.
Yeah, and they obviously have to feed their family in most of the times. So if the world saw only your failures and not your wins, what story would they tell about you? What do you think about that?
A fighter, I would say.
A fighter?
I would say that. I think, you have been through so much. I have had personal things going around during my founders. Everything happened, and like people in my family got sick, and you need to carry everything on your shoulders, right? And everything fails. I woke up with, for example, someone in the engineering team from my first venture, someone forgot to close down our script was running on AWS, and we woke up with a huge bill from AWS, and we needed to fix something with everything else. So it's so much like things that you miss, and like small things. So everything is in the details, I think, and you need to be very stubborn in order to make this, and really
Yeah.
like have a high tolerance of pain, because it's a lot usually when you're running this.
Especially at the age of only 20, I will guess, at that moment, right? Or even earlier, 19 or 20? When was
Yeah,
that?
19, I think I was when I started from the absolute beginning.
Crazy. And how high was the bill?
I think it ended up at 300K without any funding, and with like our CTO left, and it was only me and a couple of engineers. So it was, it was a very interesting path to go.
Crazy. So, Sebastian, I often think about school and how children behave there. So founders are really different. That you can't say the nerd will be the founder, the outlier will be the founder. How was it for you? How were you there at school?
I think I was pretty social, like in general. I wanted to meet like a lot of people. I want to see myself like that, at least. And I think I had a lot of ideas, a lot of ambition, and I really like thought about things that I wanted to do in the future. But in general, I had amazing friends, and I think that is also I learned like the game of the social game in general as you've been into school and everything. So I think it was also a good path for me. But of course, there come struggles to school as well. I wasn't like super focused in school, so for me it was like more kind of, it's hard to explain because I had a lot of ideas and a lot of things that I wanted to do, but my motivation for school wasn't really there, like to sit still and like do this, for a single topic. So I really wanted to do something else. So of course, at different time to time, it's been challenging, of course.
Then you started a data company. What was that actually?
Yeah, so from the absolute beginning, we were starting, and we really like didn't have a plan from the beginning. So it was a lot of thought process in what to do. So we started to do market research. We were around to all these huge companies and started to build what we thought was necessary. And at that point, all these companies had so much data, right? So they had so much data, and they really didn't know how to get out. Like, what should they do with the data? You can have a lot of data and you can have a lot of metrics, but what should you do with the data and like get the output and make it fast? So we built kind of search engine, sort of, where we were like feeding a lot of data and you're getting the input directly from what you were feeding from the data. After we built that, so we built it for 6 or 7 months, something like that. During the time, we also were in the partnership of a super huge tech company, and we were building it parallel. And once we got finished with everything and we started to say, okay, wow, it's really working, and we were getting input, then we actually got acquired. So the process was pretty fast, and since we had worked very close together, they already know everything about us and when we started, and they did their DD from the beginning, kind of. So it was a pretty fast acquisition process. To sell at that age, it was a different thing, and also to see something else, and now I really didn't know what to do. I was completely clueless, right? I was out traveling. I actually moved to the US for a while, in New York, and was just out traveling and trying to experience a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think what got to me then is I started to play tennis, and it was so different. So I started to play tennis, and going from tick to tennis and start is very, very different. And I got hooked on one problem, that every single time I went to kind of the tennis practice because I wanted to become good, I bought new tennis balls. So all the time I was buying new tennis balls cans, and I felt so frustrated. Like, why can't I use the old tennis balls? That was the idea, and my frustration where we ended up. So actually, we created a company called Reballs, where we are gathering all the tennis balls. From the tennis balls, we are washing them, putting them to a pressure can, and make them as reballs, 100% recycled tennis balls. And then we were selling them in the shops. But the thing is, we were getting these tennis balls all the time, and you can only like recycle them or like make them bounce to like 1 to 2 times, because once you were finished with them, you were throwing them away, and then it came back to us, right?
Yeah.
So we were getting back the tennis balls all the time. After we sold them again, even though we were recycling them, we were getting back like the same tennis balls. So after that, we needed to do something with the actual material from the tennis balls. And that is kind of where Play Green got started. So from my first acquisition, I used that money to buy a company and the brand name called Play Green. So we just bought it out from a couple of real estate people that had, they were basically gathering a lot of tennis balls globally and didn't have like a proper plan what to do with it. So we basically bought that kind of concept and all the contracts and everything. And then from there, we started with the process, and it's so different, right? Then we developed a machine where we can separate the filth from the rubber with a tennis ball. With other words, we're getting pure rubber and pure polyester from the tennis balls. And with the rubber, we are building new playgrounds for children's. And with the polyester, we are adding up like a fiber, make it hard, and you use it inside of the walls as warm insulation.
Yeah.
It's very, very different from my first venture.
Yeah. And you do that parallel to Talentium. How do you manage that? I mean, you're 22, you have 2 companies, you've raised over 10 million in total funding now for Talentium. How do you do that?
I think from our side and what we're trying to achieve with Talentium and everything is, you need to be very, very settled in what you want to do and really feel the problem, right? If you are every single day feeling the problem of something, you will eventually start to fix it, probably in your daily life and something like that. Like you're feeling frustration, it can be whatever it wants, like the water is too warm. Eventually you will do something about it. And for my pain, it was, sitting in all this recruitment process, it took so much time for me and it annoyed me so much. So eventually I just wanted to do something with it. So Play Green, once we got that rolling, and we got a couple of good people in the company and good investors, is still boiling, which is amazing. So actually, very soon we will drop some news on that as well, which is super exciting.
Nice.
And eventually, out of the frustration with everything, I created Talentium separately. So you need also to know what you're sacrificing. It's a lot of time where, a lot of people go out to the bar maybe or like do stuff with their friends and, go and train or whatever. You need to put like that, energy and everything that you have into something else. Of course, you need a combination because everything is about the balance. If you are not having the balance, you will not be able to make it either. So it's a very, very like fine line where you can balance, because if you're running too fast, you will eventually crash. If you're running too slow, someone will run past you. And you need to understand that the only thing that is important for your company at this stage and the stages that I have been is basically me. Because if something's happening with you or with me, like everyone else will, also lose. Why are we doing this? And so I think that is the difference of having a startup and potentially like later on a scale up, because then you have a lot more people and everything.
Yeah.
So we have been a lot more people at Talentium, which is awesome. But it started to become something different. I think I can see the path. For 1.5 years ago, a little bit less, I started Talentium, and then I was CTO, CPO, head of everything. To later on become now only more towards like a strategic role where I'm helping everyone in order to succeed. And now it's more like, now we have all the positions and people that, we have CPO, we have everything basically, and people running like with exactly what they're doing. So my purpose has kind of switched in the organization, which is naturally once you're going step to step. But you also need to understand when it's time to let go of things and when it's your time.
Yeah. And you got inspired for Talentium because of a problem you had back then at your first venture. So how was that? What was the problem exactly?
So the problem is the recruitment process has been broken for way too long. Like it doesn't work. You can see it both from the job searching perspective. I remember from personal, going out and trying to find a job as young, it's very hard.
Yeah.
And also I see a lot of friends of mine have very, very good they're, good graduations, like bachelors, masters, etc., coming out now, and they have a hard time getting a job because like the landscape is changing with AI. Like now you have deep research, going out, and you can do a lot of research. Why should you take in like an intern or stuff like that when you can use AI to do it?
Yeah.
So that is the question a lot of companies asking themselves. for me, it's more about giving people a chance to get out and really like. But I think what we need to understand, and this is very important, AI will take a lot of people's job. And that is already what we're seeing. You can see figure one in the US building robots in big fabrics, for example, creating cars and everything. And these people from the blue collar, like the frontline people working and building those cars are losing their job. They need new tools because they still need job. They still need to get fed.
Of course. Yeah.
They need to still, get out there. And I think that is one super important topic that a lot of people is missing. So with one source, LinkedIn as it is today, and it really doesn't work. You're just applying for a lot of job application. The jobs, like the companies are getting drowned, have a super hard time filtering through everything. In the same combination, it's a very, very bad candidate experience. So what Talentium is and what we are creating with Talentium is the right people at the right place. You, from the candidate perspective, should be able to find your dream job, manage expectations and everything, and focusing on like really preparing for the job and upskill yourself. And you as a recruiter should just, show up with those candidates and having the conversations with those candidates directly. And you shouldn't focusing on the manual aspect, sitting and going through all these people manually, and then you should try to find a time slot. Imagine how long time it takes, and then you're like getting about every single person that you have met because you are focusing on everything else than just focusing on connecting with those individuals and those persons, like who are you and what do you want to achieve and the vision and basically everything like that.
And how does that exactly look like? Like, is it like Perplexity where you put in, I need co-founder, should know these things? How is that?
Yeah, so how it works is exactly like you're describing. Fill in exactly what you're looking for. Find me a co-founder, super technical, work with knowledge graphs, maybe produced a YC company from before. And just fill it in, and Talentium will do the rest. So we go out there to all these thousands of sources, doing deep dives in every single candidates, and from there we are presenting those talent that you're looking for with direct contact information, super tailored outreach, tested the environment. So with other words, we are having a super unique approach in how you're like managing the communication. So flow takes potentially 2 minutes, and then you're like out there starting everything. And before, with like classic recruitment processes, usually take months, both the sourcing part and coming up with a good message and source through those applications. So with Talentium, all the companies will also, from all the applications coming in, of course, we will make you like the applications go higher up and like so that you can see them better, and like we will of course implement that. But also from this other side, when people are coming into the the flow, you need a system that can be able to handle that. And LinkedIn has been good to a certain point and has been working for a long time, but now we also need to understand what the new era is and what challenges is coming with AI. And I think that is where Talentium comes in. So the new foundation of recruitment with AI.
And what's really interesting to me, I read about it, I don't know whether it's correct or not. It's like a big problem in hiring, at least in sourcing talents, is finding the right ones. And there is a labor shortage. There are people, really bright minds, who already are in some jobs, in good jobs. So you found a way to also hire them. What about that? Can you tell us a bit about that? How you approach that?
Of course.
Passive talent.
Yeah, so of course, so Talentium is very different from like every other solution. So of course, we are like gathering information from so many different sources, of course. But in parallel, Talentium is also doing deep dives in work that people have done. So I can give you an example. For example, Google Scholar is one of our resources. With other words, what we have actually created with Google Scholar is that we can actually, let's say that you have a CV. It's very generic. We are like losing a lot of things. And today, even like all the CVs that you're looking at, everything is GPT generated or like Claude generated. So everything is looking the same. That's the first part, right? So how should you be able to filter through tons of CV that everything looks the same? Like it has the same structure, the same words, everything is the same. So it's very, very hard. So what Talentium does is that we can actually go, for example, to Google Scholar, where probably that you have posted a paper from before, potentially, we can go to your paper. We can check what you actually have created, what you can do, what kind of knowledge you have. We are including GitHub, which is like with your repositories, what kind of project you have been involved with, how you have behaved and everything. And from that, we are building a very deep understanding of who you are as a person. And just like imagine to do that from so many different sources, gathering that together as a picture, and then from there we have a pretty good understanding in like what you have created from before, who you are as a person in some aspect. Of course, we can't know everything from the absolute beginning, and then from there, we have the data that no one else has. That's the first, and we can also know a lot more than other people do. And separated from that, which I think it's very important to mention, is once we're introducing our different side of the aspect of the table from persons that is searching for a job, then for them it will be so much more easy to get the job. It's something completely different. It's not LinkedIn. It's not applying for millions of jobs. It's basically to meet those people that you want to meet. It's a hiring platform. It's not like a networking or a social media platform.
Yeah.
For me, LinkedIn has become this social media platform.
It is.
It's what it is, like a networking platform.
It is. Yeah. So going a bit deeper in to the data sources. So I think you said you're taking data from a lot of sources. How is that technically solved? Is it this scraper that goes to these websites, platforms, and scraped all of them in high frequency? How is that?
So it's pretty challenging, and we have a very unique approach in how we're doing stuff, right? We need so much data, and we need to be able to like parse it directly. So everything is on top of our search engine, and it's been very, very challenging. And this is why we have needed a super technical team in general.
Yeah.
We have, to give you a context of the team, we have competitive programmers. So our gold medalist is, common, and ICPC world finalist. I think, almost all of our engineers are that, and like being competitive programmers. We also have FANG engineers that have been like contributing to the product, people from NASA, PhDs, everything in order to build this search engine. And I think everyone has been like driving towards like the same cause, and is to build something that actually works when it comes to hiring, because it's fundamental. Every single company that you're seeing out there is, building on a team, and it's very important that the team is great.
Yeah.
The thing that drives the quality, that drives the speed, that drives the organization forward. So it's the fundamental ground of everything. And I think once you realize that, you realize how big problem it actually is that is not working today. So for us, it's completely, to build this search engine, make it fast, make it efficient. And that is what we have been focusing about for the past year, really keeping our heads down and focusing on building, because that is like what we are doing. For us is to build the world's best product, and that is what we are trying to achieve.
And the craziest thing was that you hired most of them with Talentium itself.
Yeah.
So it was with the MVP, right?
Yeah. So it's very different. So from our MVP, we actually recruited our entire engineering team, and we actually did it with a very different approach. So Talentium is not, we are Stockholm based, right? We have been from the beginning, but we are definitely not Stockholm based. We are in San Francisco, China, Indonesia, and in different parts of Indonesia, because we are targeting like the right people in order to make this happen. So for us, it's not about, where you are located. That shouldn't be a limitation. And that is also what Talentium stands for. A new way of hiring, a new way of working. So what we are trying to achieve is something that, it's internet based. I can use my computer, we can log in, and we can start to work together. So we have really nailed and trying to build like the team on top of that vision and the goal. And I think also to mention, which is very interesting, is our MVPs was very different. Of course, it's an MVP, but how we did it is actually that we reached out to those individuals with super complex problems. So we used, we asked questions about high dimensional vectors, I don't even remember the questions 100%, but it was like super, super technical, hard challenges. And everyone got super exciting about it. And we're like, oh, what is this? You know, this is not like a proper recruiter or like, so we really get through the noise. And then from there, we started like the conversation and then we recruited. And I think every single engineer that we wanted to recruit from the beginning actually got recruited. So that is also awesome.
Because the problem is big enough for them, right? For nerds who like to solve problems. Interesting. Companies also can hire globally, I understood, right?
Yeah, exactly. So we are not limited to like Stockholm or, you know, or like geolocation. So you can hire like probably around the world. We already have customers in the US. We also actually have one in Japan, which I think is pretty cool. And so, yeah.
How is that regulatory wise possible? Because you have so many different regional compliances like GDPR, EOC, and etc. How is that possible?
You need to be, of course, very certain about the regulations, which is super important for us. So, you know, of course, we need a lot of like legal help, and we have a security advisory board as well. That, you know, people from both super good GDPR people like that is focusing on that, but also from HR perspective in order how to handling the contracts when it comes to, you know, specific individuals for each and every single country. But in general, like the EU kind of regulations is pretty similar from country to country. Of course, it's a little bit different. But as long as we are not having people outside of EU handling our like data protection, like our data and stuff like that, and we only allow those engineers to focusing on that problem that is inside of Sweden and EU, then, you know, of course, we are like following every single protocol and like restrictions in order to follow GDPR. So it's super important for us as well. But in parallel, of course, we also build our own, you know, platform with people that is actively searching for jobs.
So your own data.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. And you have an update for this month, right? A big update, I heard. The website is down. You're cooking something big, I guess. Would you like to show that to us?
Yeah, I think, you know, I can show you a little bit of sneak peek of the new platform.
That's really great.
Just like a view. But basically, to give you a little bit of context in what it is, it's basically, you know, we are going away from all the functions that we had to very, very few functions, and we are focusing more towards like the agentic flow. Let me see if I can do something. So this is how it looks.
The new one, right?
Yeah, so it's more like this. So you're only focusing on the network and the jobs that you're actively having. We're introducing a lot of new functions, but in general, this is where the magic happens.
So that's really genius solution because hiring is also getting more and more blockchain based, and I think your solution is probably the best one to match with blockchain, right? Are you already talking about it or thinking about it about blockchain in hiring? Is that something?
It's very like it's super interesting. I think I haven't thought about it for myself too much, but I of course see the synergies with it, and I completely, you know, we understand it. Like the problem in general, you're sitting in so many different systems. You have one for evaluation, you have one for sourcing, you have one for ATS, you have one for, you know, application interviewing. You know, you see, only now I have like 5 different systems. Like you can probably map up out to 10. And every like system, you know, you're sitting and having data and the systems aren't talking together, and it doesn't solve the problem. So for us, it's very important, like we're actually solving the problem. And what is it? The problem that we are solving is you know, super relevant for us to really focusing on the core, not build like a legacy function or like new kind of way of doing this and this. Like for us, it's about hiring, and that is what we are solving.
And you got really big names on your as advisors, as angels, like the Klarna's founder. How do you get them? How is that possible?
I think from that perspective, when it comes to Klarna or Sebastian, amazing person. I think you know, big inspiration also for me when I started, you know, seeing them as child, you know, all these companies coming to life both here in Sweden and like and in the ecosystem. And I think, you know, it was pretty tense. I went to the Klarna office as potential customer, so that is how we saw them. It was in the beginning when we started up, and I went into this kind of room with a lot of people, I remember, and then Sebastian was there, and I think they were, I don't remember, but probably like 7 or 6 person, and then I just went up there and just told them basically what I tell everyone else, and what we are trying to create. And then we show them like the product. I went up there and I showed the product in live demo, and they tried it out, and I think they liked it. So that is how we started from the absolute beginning. And since then, of course, it has happened a lot. I also got in Joel as like founder of Sana Labs, also inspiration, and yeah, of course, Fredrik. I go with his voice every single day to the job, and I'm literally for real with it. He didn't believe me, I think, from the beginning, but yeah, I actually showed him my account. But so I think it was like it's been such a journey. We have only been here for like 1 year, and it's so much more to come. So now it's like really focusing, do a successful launch, and make people happy and solve the problem.
I'm so excited about that. Moving a bit away from the product, from the market, you're working on a solution for talent, and you see so many also inspiring people, really talented people, the founders you work with, like the Klarna's CEO. What do you think, what makes someone truly talented beyond credentials and raw IQ?
I think the raw will, and to not be like, I wouldn't say like fearless. I would say like be brave. All these people are super brave, because what you need to understand, everyone will say no, everyone will say you can't. That is just how it is. And I think every single company that is created, they are going away from what they feel comfortable with, and they are doing something completely different. And I think that is also what sets apart a founder for like a person that is, maybe want like more a common job where you're going like 8 to 6 or 8 to 5, depending where you are. And I think that is, you need to really like let go of a lot of things, and that is very, very hard for me. I can also speak like from what I experienced, and I've been like a solo founder, so it's also very different, right?
It is definitely,
because then you have 0 1 to like talk with, and when everyone is saying that, then so yeah, it's been very different.
That's really crazy. So I'm really inspired by that you go your own way without any co-founder, and that's really inspiring. If everything you've built disappeared tomorrow, who will you still be? Still a fighter, right?
100%. And I know if everything vanishes tomorrow, I know that I will go and do the exact same thing over and over again, because now I know, and I have like gained so much lessons learned and everything in my baggage, in my trunk now. So now I feel, of course, I have so much more to learn, and I'm very like humble about the future, and I'm super excited to what's to come. But I still feel that I have like learned a lot still.
Talking about the future, what do you think the next 20 years, what is something that really gives you hope for humanity in the next 20 years?
I think what really gives me hope when it comes to humanity is, that's a hard question. I think for me, I had a lot of fear when AI come, because I was also working with Noah very closely, which is from the AI safety space. I have like a lot of nightmare scenarios. I still have respect for AI. But what I really want to say is also how magical AI can be. And I think if we treat it in the right way, I have very, very high beliefs that we can solve a lot of complex like medical problems and live a lot longer and more happy. And I think that we can remove a lot of bias and like slow processes in general, and free up like a lot of like travel, like so that people can traveling a lot and really get out like from where they are in a completely different way. It's not like about a shovel and go to the cave and like do something with your hands. It's more like now you can do something completely different, and like I think that's awesome.
Sebastian, thank you much for sharing your story. That was so interesting, from being the outlier as a child and now building with so many inspiring people, being venture backed. It was a great conversation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.